This video is intended for adult collectors. Hello, my name is KevDog, and this is the Shinkalion Hatsune Miku Transformer. But what does Hatsune Miku have to do with a transformer? Does she transform into a train? Does she transform into a mecha that turns into a train? What is she training for? Well, the reality is she is a mecha pilot for a transforming Shinkansen. And this transforming robot comes from no other show but Shinkalion. This, to my knowledge, is actually Hatsune Miku's first debut as her actual character in any form of anime media. Yes, she has been referenced a couple times in other animes, and technically speaking, if you count Black Rock Shooter, but that's not exactly Hatsune Miku. But I found it so funny that the first anime that she actually debuts in is as her being a mecha pilot. As per usual, before we get into the figure, let's take a look at the packaging. On the front of the box, we have Hatsune Miku standing in front of the Shinkalion the H5 and his transform mode as a Shinkalion. On the right side of the box, we have the contents inside the box, including a QR code, which I don't know what it links to. I should probably check, so let's have a look here. And just below that, we have the gimmick where you can combine two different Shinkalions and get a combined form. Which means, yes, this thing kind of parts form, as you can see here, because it goes from the train mode of the head and the back, and then it combines. There's unfortunately no middle carriage. Anyway, on the other side of the box here, we have H5, I'm not Japanese. We also have a nice side profile of the train. Anyway, and now back to the figure itself. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what they've done to its proportions. This is the new SGX toy line, which kind of chibifies everything, including the train mode, which we'll get into in a second. But I'm not sure why they've decided to deform them all and get rid of the middle carriage. Because if you've been following Shinkalion at all, you know the original toy line had very good proportions, but had dog shit articulation. And now let's get back into the figure itself. The painting on this figure here is actually pretty decent, with the majority of the green parts being completely painted, aside from the stickers, which you do have to apply yourself. This one in here was actually quite annoying to put in. Yes, you can take it apart, but oh god, what was, oh, shockwave, oh no. You can obviously snap the figure into two to get better access to that sticker location, but it's still a bit of a hassle to reach. As for the sculpting of the figure, there are some nice things and some bad things. For example, the side shoulder parts, or the part that makes the train carriage itself, does not have any sculpting, which means this is all paint. And while we're here, if we go to the head, the eyes are actually not painted in. They are instead a different color of plastic, which kind of makes me wish this thing had light piping like we do with a figure like Shockwave. Well, you can't really see the light piping here because of my lighting setup, but anyway. If we move around to the back of the figure, we actually don't have that much hollowness, which is surprising. We do have a little bit of a kibble in terms of the joints of the train mode, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we do have a lot of nice greeveling detail on the back, but also a lot of screws. But what is hollow, however, is these little leg pieces. Unfortunately, just like the shoulders, the side of the train here is just completely devoid of molding, aside from the bottom portion where the boogies, I think is what it's called, are located. Interestingly though, the inside of the shell is actually molded. But what is even more interesting is the fact, if I show you the insides of the, okay, I have to do this because this figure doesn't have a thigh swivel. There's actually molded detail between the legs, which gets covered up by a sticker. And this is also true for every single location where there is a sticker, which is a little bit weird. Anyway, talking about articulation, the articulation on this thing is definitely better than the original line. Unfortunately though, it is not that good, but it's tolerable. Starting off with the head, we have a head swivel, but unfortunately no up or down. But technically, due to transformation, you kind of do have a down if you lift up the front plate and turn the head slightly down. But it ends up looking like she's looking at, I don't know, that's not really articulation. The shoulders can rock back and forth, but that is due to transformation. There's a very nice bend at the elbows, a swivel here where there's no swivel here, inward and outward at the shoulder, and second verse just like the first. Waist rotation alongside an ab crunch thanks to transformation, but it's nothing much. A beautiful spread, a very nice front and back at the hips, no thigh rotation, but a nice double bend at the knee. and a very nice ankle pivot, which isn't actually part of transformation. The giant pieces of kibble are thankfully on a very nice articulation, which lets you get them out of the way during posing. The joints on here are kinda stiff, but thankfully this thing is made out of super thick plastic. And how can I tell the plastic is thick? Well, thanks to the thick plastic technique, where you give the plastic a nice slap. What did I just say there? I'm not sure if it's just on my copy, but the knee bend here, where the ratchet is, feels just a little bit tight, but I don't think it's gonna break based on how durable the plastic feels. The articulation overall is okay. The fact that it doesn't have a thigh swivel is a little bit of a deal breaker. While it is possible to get this figure into dynamic poses, it is a little bit of a pain to get into without thigh rotation, which means the legs can look static at times. And unlike other figures, this one can't do yoga as well. Oh, and also I almost forgot that this thing does have some feet up and down due to transformation, and the wrists are on a swivel. Oh, and I also forgot one more thing. That didn't work really well. Miku's mech also comes with 4 accessories. 2 blade things to attach to the back of the figure, a strange looking sword that looks more like a chainsaw, and a giant V-fin, which can just be attached by sliding it onto the face. And with all the accessories on, this is what the figure looks like from the front, back, side, and other side. And that's pretty much all there is to the robot mode, which means it's time to get into the transformation. First, remove all the accessories, and then split your figure into 2. As for the top half, it's quite simple. Lift this panel up, fold the head in, close this panel, fold in the waist, compress both of the shoulders down, and slide both of them back. After you've done that, just reposition the arms and fold them into place, with the second verse being same as the first. And then we want to close the shoulders all together and plug both pegs into place. And the last thing for the top half is to bring out the coupling system. And there's the top half. Now for the bottom half, what we're going to do is make sure the legs are nice and flat, close the legs together and plug them into place, and the knees all the way down, and then ratchet the joints all the way up. Now fold in the feet, and then we want to spread the shells outwards until they click, and then close everything up and close the shell. And once again, grab the coupling system and pull it out. And there you guys have it, the train mode, which is missing something. Unlike the original toy line, which had a middle carriage, this one does not, which means the accessories have nowhere to go. Technically speaking, you can attach them to the train itself, but it doesn't matter what position you put them on, it just looks a bit strange. And while you technically can store the stuff, you still can't store the V-fin. And this is where the original toy line's middle carriage would come in, because you could store everything inside of it, while also making the trains look more proportional. And proportionally, just like the robot mode, they have been kinda chibified. Proportions aside, the molding on the train is only okay. Obviously we have the undercarriage, but we don't have any molding on the sides of the train. The front of the train, however, is a different story. We do have some nice molding for the cockpit with a bit of paint, and the front nose actually splits open to presumably connect to other trains, but you can't connect it to the rear of its own train because this is just molded in, so we can't do that. The molding situation is a little bit unfortunate because the original toy line did actually have nice molded details, and on top of that, the original toy line did have some really nice rolling action, whereas the new one, well, it tends to get stuck on its own parts, specifically in the leg, where there's a bit of friction here. You kind of have to split the back of the train just a little bit to get it to roll nicer. As for size comparison, here she is with Shockwave, Executioner Prime, and Hatsune Miku. And as for the robot mode, here's Miku, Prime, Executioner, and Shockwave. That was really weird to say backwards. Overall though, if you are a Shinkalion fan, I do recommend picking these up over the original line because of the articulation, but if you do prefer the proportions, I would actually probably steer you more towards the model kits because those look a lot better. In terms of a transformer though, this is definitely more so the definitive version of the entire toy line, with comparisons to the previous line, not the original, having parts forming everywhere. Yes, technically this does have to parts form in order to transform, but it is show accurate. But if you're a Hatsune Miku fan and you like Transformers, well, this is probably, oh Jesus Christ, this is probably a must-have. Just make sure you don't pay a little too much for it because import fees, yeah, things. Anyway, thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.